You would have heard of the saying, the grass is greener on the other side. Well, maybe if you're saying that, you should just water, fertilise your own lawn on your side. And the same applies in the exercise profession. That exercise, the other exercise, the new exercise, the cutting edge exercise, or the exercise that they're doing must be far better than the exercises that I'm doing. And you see now, because we're so connected through social media, that you get exposed to so much variety of exercises that makes you start to doubt what you're doing and say, well, maybe, am I doing it right? Maybe I should be doing that exercise or following that guru, or that person's bigger than me or in better shape than me or better looking than me. They must know what they're doing, because if I do their exercises, I should look like them. Well, if that was the case, you'd get 10 people, give them exactly the same exercises, then over a period of a year or so, they'll look exactly the same. And that is far from the truth. As you know, when it comes to training, all you can do is get closer and enhance your genetic potential and get closer to your genetic limit based on your genetics. However, there's always that doubt in your mind that maybe there's going to be a better exercise. I know when I was a young buck in my late teenage years and early 20s and in the area of bodybuilding, I was always seeking the better exercise. Maybe I should do an incline there or decline there, or do a different angle on that one, or do a different machine on that one. And what I found is all that variety, because even you justify it saying variety is really important in training, where what I eventually found is that variety is the greatest way to disguise the lack of progress. Because you're so busy chopping and changing, you never actually start to get any mileage on any particular training exercise or training method. So when you come across people who say, hey, there's a new exercise, I always ask, wow, is there new anatomy? Because if you understand anatomy, the joints, the muscles, the tendons, and all the associated systems with the muscular system, the nervous system, the hormonal system, or the endocrine system, the circulatory system, the cardiovascular system, the respiratory system, when you understand anatomy, then you know that anatomy doesn't change. It hasn't changed for many thousands of years and probably won't change for many more thousands of years. So you can change the exercise around the anatomy, but you're not actually changing the anatomy. All you're doing is changing the frame, or you're changing the decorations on the Christmas tree, or you're changing the bells and whistles around it to give a different feel, but ultimately you're still training the same muscles across the same joints that do the same actions. So before you start to self-doubt and start to chop and change, and you get changed so much, you don't know whether you're going north, south, east or west, whether you're getting better or getting worse, or progressing or not progressing, because you're so busy changing because you're thinking they're doing it better or they're doing it. Maybe go back to your fundamental anatomy and start to train your body the way it's designed to train. If you spent less time chopping and changing and more time just focused on the right exercises for you, the best exercises for you, and focus on the things that really count. Because progress is not dependent upon variation. Progress is not dependent upon change. Progress is dependent on progressive overload. So if you want the muscle to change from a muscular strength or muscle building point of view, if you want the muscle to increase its muscle density, if you want the muscle to change, then the weight on the bar has to change, because the weight on the bar determines the force, and the force in the muscles determines the motor unit recruitment, or the number of motor units recruited in a muscle. That stimulates it to recruit more muscle fibers to exert more force to overcome the load, which in turn requires the nervous system to drive more neural drive into the muscles. That stimulates the hormonal system to have a greater hormonal response to the exercise and the after effects of exercise, because the exercise, the hormonal response, will be getting the body into action to do the performance, and after the exercise, the hormonal system will start to release the hormones for the adaptation phase, so you can benefit from the supercompensation process. Remember, the supercompensation process is that you overload a muscle at a set level of performance. During that performance, you fatigue. You decrease your performance level by fatigue. Then over time, you will recover. And over that recovery, you come back to your same level of performance, and then they will start to super or overcompensate. It means the body will get stronger, it will get fitter, it will get bigger if that's what you desire. Like a callus, I provide a load which is the resistance of maybe sandpaper or stone. I rub the skin, I wear it down, then that skin will regenerate and recover back to its normal thickness, and then it will lay a slightly thicker layer of skin to accommodate for if I apply that load again in preparation to get ready, because the body is an adaptive organism and will adapt to the environment. So if you continually progress the environment to be more rigorous and more stressful on the body will get stronger. So if you apply that principle, but if you're chopping and changing the exercises all the time, you're not really increasing the load. You're just putting a variety of the same load from a different angle on the muscle. Once you find the right exercises for you, then just stick to those exercises and progress them on the things that count the most. The things that count the most is the progression of the load. If I work out the best way to brush my teeth, then I brush my teeth and that does the job. I don't think there at night time, now how can I brush my teeth different? Maybe I'll brush 3 strokes that way, 2 strokes this way, 2 strokes that way, 1 stroke that way. No, because that variety is not making the effect of cleaning my teeth any better. It's just mixing it up for the sake of mixing it up, maybe to entertain myself, but it's not actually giving me any better results. So there's an old saying, stick to basics, because if you stick to basics, you never have to go back to basics. So if you stick to the exercises that count the most, so what are the exercises that count the most? The exercises that provide the greatest load. Well, the exercises provide the greatest load are what we call compound exercises, big exercises, because big exercises give you big results. A lot of people tend to steer away from the big exercises because they're hard, and that's why they work, because they're hard. Things such as squats and deadlifts and chin-ups and dips and push-ups and rows, and the big compound means more than one joint moving, and they also so happen to be functional, particularly if they're executed in a functional position. Say a squat, which is a compound exercise in a functional position, meaning upright, versus a leg press, which is a compound exercise executed in a dysfunctional position because you're laying on the ground with your feet up in the air, which is not really applicable to daily life activities, which again is not necessarily a bad thing, as your only focus is on load, not necessarily function. But pick the big exercises because they allow you to lift big weight, big overload, high amounts of force going through the body. Now, a lot of people confine their thinking to stimulating the muscle, but stimulating the muscle is not the main purpose of strength training. The purpose of stimulating the muscle is so the muscle is driven by the nervous system to get a activation of the hormonal system, because the hormonal system releases the hormones for the body to adapt for long-term changes. So you drive the nervous system to activate the muscle, that therefore activates the the hormonal system to put the body into, first of all, a catabolic state where you're lifting the weight, and eventually a counter anabolic state, an adaptive state, the supercompensation state or overcompensation state, so the body will adapt by getting stronger. So you want to pick lifts that not just necessarily overload the muscle, but overload the nervous system, that also in turn will overload the hormonal system, but will give you those greater adaptations post-exercise in the recovery, regeneration and supercompensation phase of your training. Remember, your body doesn't get stronger when you're rubbing the skin. The skin doesn't get thicker, it gets thicker when you rest. So the good quality stimulus, good quality recovery. But you don't say, I'll rub this way one way and this way a bit of variety, and I'll turn it on upside down, I'll do it under here and I'll do it over here. Just get the most effective, most efficient, safest way to do it. So big exercises, big movements, big weight in a good functional position. Now my suggestion is that you're going to also, training is also emotional, not just logical, so you won't just necessarily pick the best exercise logically, but you also have to emotionally enjoy those exercises. So pick because there's more than one exercise. You can do deadlifts, you can do lunges, you can do squats, you can do bench presses, you can do incline bench presses, you can do dips. So you have a variety of big exercise. So pick the ones that you enjoy doing, because the ones you enjoy doing are more likely the ones that you're more likely to show up at the gym and do, and more likely to put an effort in. Now, the three main movement patterns of the body is what we call the push movement pattern, which is anything where you're pushing this way, like push-ups and bench press and dips. The pull movements, such as rows or chin-ups, and then you had the big leg exercises such as squats and lunges and deadlifts. So they're the three movement patterns. So pick one or two exercises for each one of those movement patterns that you enjoy doing, and then focus on them. Now remember, the more the exercises you do, the less effort you're more likely to put into each exercise. The more sets you do, the less effort you're psychologically more likely to put into each exercise. So for example, if I got you out on a 100 meter track and I said, we're going to do 30 100 meter sprints and want you to do them as fast as you possibly can, well, psychologically you're defeated before you even start. Because on your first one you think, I've got 29 to go. But if I say, hey, we're only going to do 3 or 4 100 meter sprints and put 100% effort in, then psychologically you're going to be more turned on. Because remember, the body only will go where the mind will allow it. So you've got to turn the mind on first before the body will go. And you've got to get pumped up for it. It's very hard to get pumped up for 30 sets. It's very hard to get pumped up for 12 exercises, 4 sets each, which is 36 sets. It's very hard to get pumped up for that. If you're watching the Commonwealth Games at the moment, these people are very easy to get pumped up for the long jump or the 100 meter sprint or the 200 meters or the shot put. They're very easy to get pumped up for that one effort that's going to give them the maximal result. So remember, when it comes to progress, it's not just the exercise, it's the effort that you put into the exercise. So the less exercises you do, the more effort you're going to put into each exercise. The less sets you do, the more effort you're going to put into each exercise. The more effort means you're going to lift a greater load that's going to provide a greater force, a greater muscle activation of the muscle, greater motor unit recruitment, greater muscular tension, a greater training effect, and a greater overcompensation. So rather than string it out with lots of exercises, lots of sets where the intensity is compromised, because you can train hard or you can train long, but you can't do both, because there's an inverse relationship between intensity and volume. It means the higher the intensity, the less you can do. The lower the intensity, the more you can do. So if you're doing a lot of exercises and a lot of training, you're compromising your intensity, which means you're compromising the quality for quantity. So remember, when it comes to strength and muscle gain, it's not about quantity, it's about quality. So quality means less, more into it. So each session, maybe 3, 4, 5 exercises, 6 exercises at the absolute most, maybe a preparation set, then one maximal set to put your best effort in on a good big compound based exercise. Then after that, go home and recover and let the body do its stuff. So remember, I don't have to keep turning the light switch on and on to turn the light on. I just got to switch it on once and it does the job well. I don't have to say, well, on, off, on, off, on, off. 3 sets. Just do it one, the best you can do, 240 volts of muscular contraction, maximal contraction, and then go home and recover. And don't think that the exercises on the other side of the fence, on the other side of the gym, are better than yours, because ultimately, no matter which side of the gym you are, you have the same anatomy. And whether you're training a muscle with a dumbbell or a barbell, or you're training it facing north, east, south or west, or training it upside down, inside out, whatever it might be, you're still training the muscle across its internal environment of the joint, the tendons, and the line of pull on the muscles. What happens externally is just basically sugarcoating. It's just basically window dressing. So don't get mixed up in the window dressing. Stick to the core of your training, using the basic movement patterns, using quality training, and don't get disturbed or redirected into other exercises. Just do what you do well, do it great, progress it, and you'll get the results that you always wanted. And if you're starting to hit maybe a training plateau, it's not because the exercise is worn out, it's probably because you probably need a bit of an extra recovery. So when you are starting to have diminishing returns in your training, or even negative returns, then it probably the body means I need a rest. So give it a week, sometimes 2 weeks rest, then come back into it, and you find your strength will go up. You ever had a week or 2 weeks off involuntary because you got sick, or you had to go away for work, or whatever it might be, and or you're away on holidays and you couldn't train, you came back to train, you're probably thinking you're small, psychologically thinking you're shrinking and weaker, and you get in there and you have a training session and you go, oh my God, that's the best training session I've had for ages, because your body is fully recovered and it's firing on all cylinders. Today I did a bit of training in my martial arts, and I haven't done that, what I did today, for a little while, and I thought, oh, okay, it would be interesting to see how I go. And I actually did the best session I have with those techniques. And it's probably because I've given my body a rest to recover, to fully regenerate, to come back. And when I did come back, I was firing on all cylinders. So make sure you don't overcook the turkey. Make sure you don't burn yourself out and you're only firing on 2 of the 8 cylinders you have. Make sure you have plenty of recovery so you come back fresh, eager to do some PBs. You should come back into the gym or your training session hungry from your previous session, not tired or worn out from your previous session. Hopefully that's been helpful in the mindset of approaching training to get your best results. Don't go off track and get diverted by bells and whistles. Stick to your basics, get strong at the basics. You never have to need the bells and whistles. See you in the next Kmax.